My next guest, Roland Paris, is a former foreign affairs advisor to the Prime Minister. He's now the director of the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs at the University of Ottawa. Professor Paris, good to have you with us. I wanted to start off actually and get you to reflect on something Mr. Shevchenko said in the lead up to watching all the members of Parliament there, and in particular the NDP, assemble in the House of Commons. We've been watching over the past number of days this growing divide between politicians in the United States that doesn't seem to exist in the same way here in Canada on the specific issue of Ukraine and supporting Ukraine. How significant do you think that is on a day like today?
Well, it's very important. This day is not only a chance for the President of Ukraine to thank Canada and Canadians for all of the support that this country has been providing. It's also a chance for the Prime Minister, the government, and the Parliament to stand up together and to express Canada's undivided support for Ukraine. Of course, he had a much more challenging context in Washington, where there are growing voices of skepticism about the amount of support that the United States has provided for Ukraine. But it just speaks to the larger challenges that Ukraine faces, not just on the battlefield, but also in sustaining the coalition that it needs in order to keep this fight going.
And there are some cracks elsewhere in the coalition, not necessarily all for the same reason. I'm thinking, for example, of Poland this week, which, because of a trade issue with Ukraine, though it has been at the forefront of championing additional military aid, now says it's going to hold back on its own. Is that emblematic of the kinds of challenges at this juncture, like this many months into this war, that Ukraine is up against?
It's inevitable that as this war goes on, there are going to be differences and fissures and tensions emerging. What's critical is that a country like Canada not only continue to supply our own material support for Ukraine, and that can be money, it can be equipment, it can be training, but that we provide political support too, and that means working to try to sustain this coalition of countries, which is much bigger than just NATO, that Ukraine needs in order to keep this fight going. One of your previous guests said we're shifting into a longer-term thinking about support for Ukraine, and that's essential because it does look like this war is going to go on for some time. So there's a political challenge of maintaining this coalition, and then the physical challenge of providing Ukraine with what it needs to sustain its battle.